So there was about a week or so ago, you started to see the reports of the dates for the first expanded college football playoff, which now is at 4, will be at 12 in 2024. They gave out the dates and all that in both 24 and 25, but let's focus in on 24. And here they are. The first round games will be on December 20th and the 21st, of Friday evening, and then a Saturday game that's either early afternoon, late afternoon, or evening. There'll be one game on Friday evening, 3 games in those 3 timelines, early afternoon, late afternoon, and evening, almost like a regular college football day. That's the first round. So you'll have 8 teams who try to make it into the quarterfinals, where teams will be waiting. Then, about 10 days later or so, a week and a half later, on Tuesday, December 31st, New Year's Eve, the Fiesta Bowl, we'll have a game in the evening. Wednesday, January the 1st, there'll be 3 games, 3 quarterfinal round games: the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, the Rose Bowl, and the All-State Sugar Bowl.
And look, the Rose Bowl got their time slot.
They did. They got it. They won it on January 1st, and they wanted it in the mid-afternoon, and they got it. Maybe not the next year, I don't know. Then the 4 winners move on to the semifinals, which will be about a week later. Not quite a week, but a little bit more than that. The Capital One Orange Bowl in Miami on Thursday, January 9th, will be a night game. And the following day, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl in Dallas or in Arlington will be a night game. And the championship game will then be 10 days after that, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, on a Monday, January 20th. We've all discussed we'd rather it not be on a Monday. Don't lose the steam. NFL playoffs the weekend before, but those are the dates. Those are the bowl games, and sometimes as well as an estimated when it will be during the day.
Yeah, I'd rather it be on that Friday night to me. I mean, I think that would be way better, just as opposed to after you've had people – watching football all weekend with the NFL playoffs, which are going to get more ratings than you are. Why don't you be the thing that kicks off that exciting playoff weekend? That, to me, makes more sense. If it's Thursday or Friday or whatever, that would be better to me, because I think you're going to have a more captive audience and a more engaged audience than you would on Monday, especially depending on who it is. If there's not – and there may – like – you're probably going to look at some of the same teams, but you might, because of this 12-team playoff, luck into a game where there's not going to be a lot of fatigue. It might be a matchup we haven't seen in a while of 2 teams that are not there. So capitalize on it as much as you can, and we'll see. I do, like I said before, we talked about it, I would like to see this all moved up a little bit, just so that you're not waiting between the conference championship games and the bowl games 2 weeks, or in the playoff 2 weeks. Unless they can make the bowl game schedule run better to where, in that 2 weeks, I've got good bowl games every night that I can watch and good postseason matchups to flow through and wet my whistle, so to speak. But I don't know. I don't like waiting 2 weeks after the championship games. But
yeah, I mean, there's definitely ways this could have been better, but they're afraid of the NFL. So they didn't pursue those ways. They could have played on, more customary dates, but they don't want to, get affected by the pros, and that's understandable. But it's kind of weird to play on every day of the week besides Sunday over the course of a playoff. They're playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and there's no game on Sunday. But at some point, they're playing on every single one of those days, which is just very odd. And I know that maybe one day here and there is not going to make much of a difference, but I would imagine there's also probably a few coaches who love routine who are like, what the heck? Because, you hear about how much just a Thursday night game can completely throw you off your schedule, or having a non-Saturday game, how that, like a Friday night game as opposed to your normal Saturday game, how that changes things. So that'll be something for teams to have to deal with and adjust to. But, you got the major bowls involved. I don't care about the Rose and their kickoff time. I never did, and good for them, I guess. But I just could not care less about that story. Or I don't care about that storyline and their sunset. But I understand why it's an appeal for many out there in the history and whatnot. But, yeah, it's interesting to look at, and I'm excited about it. I do wonder how much of an effect it has on some of the other bowl games and if there's much of a care factor. Now, I thought initially, okay, well, if you're taking all these teams out of the bowl games, then what does the Cotton Bowl look like? But since you're going to be using those, that solves the problem of, all of a sudden the Cotton Bowl, rather than having Florida State, Oklahoma's got, some other not so great game because all those teams are in the playoff. They don't deal with that. So that's good that they did it that way. And yeah, it's just going to be more football. I'm excited for it. I don't have a lot of really in-depth thoughts because I'm just sort of waiting for it to arrive and then kind of go from there on what it looks like. But don't love the scattering of days just because I'm kind of a very much a black and white kind of guy.
And coaches want to be routine too.
Right, and that's the thing I think probably most of all. But, I mean, that's not something that should torpedo this thing by any means. So, again, it'll just be something they have to adjust to, but it's exciting to look at and to think about, and, it's right around the corner.
In 2025, the Rose Bowl is a quarterfinal round game, early afternoon on a Thursday, January 1st. So both years, they're going to be on January 1st. They get what they wanted. Now, again, this might change. This is early. That might change. The championship game in 2 years, or in 3 years, 2025, will be at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. The Orange Bowl is a part of the quarterfinals, and I guess will also be the championship site. Isn't that the same place?
Yeah, they're going to play at the same place.
I'm looking at the 2024. Atlanta, which is the Peach Bowl, gets the championship game, and they're a part of the quarterfinals. So they'll host a couple of different games that year. The Peach Bowl in Georgia, the 2024, and the Orange Bowl in Miami in 2025 will have 2 games.
I think the only difference will be, stadium-wise, is when, say, Las Vegas gets the game.
Yeah.
Las Vegas is not going to have, the Las Vegas Bowl is not going to be part of that rotation. And then, when the championship game's back at SoFi, the Rose Bowl will have their thing at the Rose Bowl, and then SoFi's, quite a ways away.
If the Rose Bowl wants to keep being on January 1st, that means, I guess they could host the quarterfinal like the other ones and then host the championship game. They're right.
Well, here's the thing. If the compromise is you want to have that game that day at that time, great. You just now have to move off the fact, and this is probably another thing they had to do, is it's not going to be the Big Ten and Pac-10 anymore. It's just not.
No, yeah, as far as the opponent,
It could be, but, who knows what it's going to be.
And again, the first round games, sorry, Craig, are all on campus. Those opening games that then winners get to the quarterfinals will be on-campus games, which will be a nice twist, a turn of a change compared to what we've seen before.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is I'm excited about those. I think most of all, I know those won't be the biggest matchups, but they're still going to be some pretty good matchups. I mean, they're going to be some good games. You'll obviously have teams with buys, but I think for those seeds that, get the chance to host and those that have to go travel into hostile territory as opposed to just your generic NFL, intermediate site or whatever, as they're accustomed to for these types of games, I think that'll be a really fun, unique, interesting twist to this whole thing. So, yeah, I'm excited about the possibility of seeing USC going to Clemson in the first round of the playoff and having to play in Death Valley, and there's any other thousands of other matchups that I'm sure people have used as examples. But the fact that that's something that we could see during the regular season, but we would never see in an elimination style postseason setting, that's going to make that first year exceptionally cool, and I think that'll be a cool thing, moving on into the future years as well. I think that's a real hook for people is for these early round teams to have that potential to have a home game. That's just going to be so massive for so many. And, yeah, I mean, just having these additional postseason games, I know some don't like it. They feel it's going to be watered down or it takes away from the every week matters. But I'm open-minded enough to give it a go and give it a chance, and I'm super interested in how it works out. And guess what? If it doesn't work out well, they could always change it.
Yep.
Although there's going to be so much money flowing that it could be the worst thing ever, and they're not going to probably ever change this. So it is what it is, and whether you like it or not, here it comes. But I'm looking forward to it.
All right, when we come back, David,